So, here's a wild thought. What if I told you that, well, everything, your conscience, our entire economy, the way society works, it all boils down to the very first sound a human ever makes? Yeah, I'm talking about a baby's cry.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to look at our most basic code, our emotions. Then we'll see how that code builds our inner world, creates a kind of social currency, approval, and how it splits us into two different kinds of thinkers. And we'll wrap up by asking the biggest question of all. What do we really want out of life?
Okay, so let's dive right in at the very beginning. We're talking about the first language any of us ever learn. And the crazy part, it has no words, no alphabet, not a single rule of grammar.
Think about it. The second you were born, you were already communicating. Not with words, obviously, but with pure feeling. A cry wasn't just noise. It was a signal. Hey, I need something over here. A smile meant, all good, I'm happy. It's this incredibly direct, raw form of communication. It's our factory setting, our universal language.
Now, as we get older and learn to talk, this theory says we don't just ditch those emotions. Nope, we just start wrapping them up in words. The source we're looking at calls these eponyms. And it makes perfect sense, right? When you say a song is good, you're not giving a fact like this song is 3 minutes long. You're telling everyone how you feel about it. You're broadcasting an attitude.
And this is where things get really interesting. You've got words that are like math, rock solid. 2 plus 2 is always 4. The sun is hot. That's a fact for everyone. But then you have these emonyms, these emotion words. This painting is beautiful. Well, is it? That totally depends on who's looking. See the difference? One is pure data, the other is pure feeling.
So why does this even matter? Because we're hardwired to react to emotion. Imagine someone runs up to you and says, in a totally flat robotic voice, "The building is on fire." You might pause for a second, right? But if they run up screaming, "The building's on fire!" you're gonna move. That emotion signals importance. It's like a stamp that says, pay attention, this is real.
All right? Now, let's take that idea and see how it scales up. Because this simple loop, this emotional feedback, is basically the blueprint for your entire inner world. Yeah, even your conscience.
It's kind of like a simple 3-step program for building a human. Step 1, your parents react to what you do with emotions. Smiles when you share, frowns when you throw your food. Step 2, you're not dumb. You quickly figure out which actions get the good reactions. You start chasing the smiles. Step 3, eventually you don't even need your parents in the room. You build this little virtual society in your head that tells you what's good and what's bad. That's your conscience being born.
So, your conscience. According to this framework, it isn't some magical, mystical voice from the heavens. It's just a playlist, a recording of all the thumbs ups and thumbs downs you've gotten from the world constantly playing in the back of your mind.
And that quote right there, it perfectly explains why changing our deep-seated beliefs is so ridiculously hard. It's not just a matter of deciding to think differently. It's like you've spent your whole life in this social aquarium, and now you're trying to swim against a current that's been pushing you in one direction since day one. That's some heavy stuff.
Okay, so this whole system of internal programming, it leads us straight to one of the biggest forces in human society, authority. And what this model suggests is that authority runs on a very particular kind of fuel.
I want you to picture the leader of some ancient tribe, way back when. They didn't have a business card or a fancy title. What did they have? They had the trust, the approval of the whole group, all focused on them. That's what authority is, at its core. It's just a big pile of social approval.
A really simple way to think about it is like a battery. Every person who approves of a leader gives them a little bit of charge. The more people that trust them, the more charged up that battery gets, and the more power they have to make things happen. So their authority is literally powered by what people think of them.
And this chase for approval, it basically becomes the engine that drives all of society. Look, we can't all be the top dog, right? So we specialize. You become the best hunter, I become the best toolmaker. We each earn relative authority in our own little fields. But how do you trade that approval? Well, eventually, we invent money as a sort of universal symbol for it. And boom, just like that, you have the basis for the division of labor in our entire economic system.
Now, this is where the theory gets really interesting, maybe even a little controversial. It argues that this entire system of learning and authority actually creates a massive split in how we think. It basically divides humanity into two different kinds of minds.
On one side, you have what the source calls the faithful majority. These are the people who learn that the right answer comes from authority, the teacher, the boss, the expert. Their first question is always, who are you to tell me this?
They check your credentials first. On the other side, you have the doubting minority. They don't really care who said it, they care if it works. Their first question is, okay, but how does this actually work? They're all about logic and practical use.
And this system can create something the source calls optilis, which translates to the stupidity of the excellent. We all know this person, right? The straight A student who can memorize the entire textbook, get a perfect score, but completely freezes when faced with a real-world problem that's not in the book. They're brilliant at repeating information, but not so great at original thinking.
Then you've got this other idea, terminologility, or terminological stupidity. This happens when we take those fuzzy emotion words we talked about earlier, words like good, or fair, or just, and we try to use them in a serious plan, as if they're solid, measurable facts. It's like trying to build a house out of fog. The materials just aren't solid enough to hold anything up.
Okay, so if we're all just products of our social programming, and most of us are trained to follow the leader, what does that say about what we want? Are our own desires even real? What's the whole point of this game?
And this leads to a pretty tough question you have to ask yourself. That dream job you want, the lifestyle you're chasing, that perfect relationship, take a second and ask, where did that desire actually come from?
The answer, according to this source, is pretty startling. It suggests that almost none of our desires are truly our own. We want what we want because we see other people wanting it, and we see them getting approval for it. As the quote says, the gods walk beside you. Those gods shaping your desires? They're your friends, your family, the people you see on social media.
So what then is the purpose of life in this model? It's shockingly simple. It's to get a reaction from other people. That's it. Every single thing we do, our careers, our hobbies, our relationships, it's all just an attempt to get some kind of response from the people around us, and hopefully a good one.
But the takeaway from this isn't cynical. It's actually kind of beautiful. If your happiness is all about the reactions you get from your world, then the most important thing you can do is become a gardener. Carefully cultivate your social environment. Choose who you spend time with. Nurture the relationships that give you positive energy. If you tend to your social garden, you'll create a wonderful place to live.
And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. If life really is all about getting a reaction, then you have to ask yourself a very important question. What reaction are you trying to get?